There is a small island off the coast of Scotland, less than 2 kilometers long, that the British government made disappear from maps for nearly 50 years. No boats. No tourists. No scientists without hazmat suits. Just a sign on the shore that read, "Do not land. Do not touch the soil. Do not breathe the air." And underneath it, buried in the ground, one of the most lethal biological weapons ever created by a democratic government. It's 1942. Churchill's Britain is fighting a war it is genuinely afraid of losing. The Nazis are advancing on every front. The Luftwaffe has already battered London into rubble. And somewhere inside the British intelligence apparatus, a quiet, brilliant, and deeply terrifying idea is being born. What if Britain could contaminate Germany's entire food supply? Not with poison. Not with bombs. With anthrax. Anthrax isn't a virus. It's a bacterium, Bacillus anthracis, and what makes it uniquely monstrous is that it forms spores. Microscopic armored capsules that can lay dormant in soil for over a century, waiting patiently to infect the next living thing that walks over them. Breathe them in. You have roughly 24 hours before you begin to bleed internally. Touch them. Same fate, just a little slower. Britain's plan was to drop 5 million anthrax-laced cattle cakes over 6 major German cities. German cattle would eat them. Cattle would die. Food supply collapses. Germans starve. They called it Operation Vegetarian. But before they could kill a single German cow, they needed to know, does this actually work? So they chose an island. Remote. Uninhabited. Surrounded by cold Atlantic water. A tiny, oval-shaped piece of land called Gruinard Island, sitting just off the Scottish coast, half a mile from the mainland shore. And here's the question nobody in that room stopped to properly ask: what happens to an island after you release anthrax on it? In the summer of 1942, British military scientists from the Porton Down research facility arrived on Gruinard Island with a group of sheep, a cluster of bombs, and a secret that would not be officially acknowledged for 4 decades. They planted bombs in the soil. They tethered the sheep in a field. Then they detonated the bombs, which didn't explode outward with fire and shrapnel. They simply opened and released a cloud of anthrax spores into the Scottish air. The sheep began dying within 3 days. Within a week, they were all dead. But then something happened that nobody had fully planned for. The tides were not cooperating. Carcasses from the island, still hot with live anthrax spores, drifted to the mainland. Within weeks, livestock on the Scottish coast began dying. Farmers found dead sheep and cattle on the shore. No one told them why. The experiment was contained. The contamination was not. The British government did what governments do best when they make a catastrophic mistake. They classified everything. They bought the island. They planted warning signs. And then, with a war to win and a world falling apart, they simply walked away. Gruinard Island was quietly erased from navigation charts. No flights over it. No boats near it. The locals were given no explanation. Operation Vegetarian, for what it's worth, was never fully deployed against Germany. The war ended before 5 million anthrax cattle cakes could be dropped on Hamburg. But the island? The island was left exactly as they'd made it. A biological time bomb sitting in the open sea. For nearly 50 years, Britain officially maintained that the island was under observation. Unofficially, they had no idea what to do with it. No one on Earth had ever tried to decontaminate a landscape this saturated with anthrax spores. By the 1980s, a group of activists calling themselves Dark Harvest had gotten tired of waiting. They broke onto the island, collected soil samples, and mailed them, in unmarked packages, to government officials and military research facilities across Britain. The message was simple: if we can get here, so can someone else. Fix this. Parliament erupted.
Mr. Speaker,
The press exploded. And suddenly, after 4 decades of silence, Britain had no choice but to admit what it had done. Between 1986 and 1990, the British government spent millions attempting to sterilize the island. They mixed 280 tons of formaldehyde with seawater and pumped it across every inch of Gruinard soil. Then they scraped the top layer of the island, the contaminated earth, and removed it entirely. In 1990, the government officially declared the island safe. They planted a flock of sheep on it to prove the point. The sheep survived. And in April of that year, a junior government minister walked ashore and handed back the title to the descendants of the family it had been taken from, 48 years after the British military had simply seized it. Scientists today largely agree the decontamination was probably effective. Probably. But anthrax spores at depth, below the layer they treated, may still be viable. Some microbiologists believe they could remain infectious for another 300 years. The island sits there now. Empty. Green-looking. Technically open to visitors, though almost no one goes. The soil still holds its secrets. The sea doesn't talk. And somewhere in the National Archives, the full operational files on Operation Vegetarian are still partially redacted. We know what they did. We just don't know everything they found. They quarantined an entire island to hide their deadly pathogen. But in 1951, a small village in southern France didn't get a warning. Overnight, ordinary people started seeing demons and jumping out of windows. Hundreds of them. At the same time. Was it bad bread? Or was it a secret CIA mind control experiment gone wrong? Click here. Find out what they did to Pont Saint-Esprit.